All right, guys. So it's been a very long last day or so. Fucking blur. I don't know why it does that. But anyway, um I believe pretty strongly in freedom of speech and expression. I've and numerous times in the past explained my view on this, why, etc. Um it's especially significant in times where there's an active attempt to suppress freedom of speech. My cat's trying to talk to me while I'm trying to record. Yeah. So I'm going to give you my view. It's my opinion, obviously. What I see happening is we've had various, how do I put it? We've had various different administrations in office, and almost always there's a tendency to play within certain bounds, to obey certain rules. That is currently out the window. That's not my opinion. Things are being done now that has never before been seen in American politics. When, of course, when I say American, I mean the United States. Although there's more to America than the United States, I realize that. Blah blah blah. Anyway, we have this belief that politics is just all opinions, all like completely separate from reality. When you say something's an opinion, you're implicitly stating that it's like, maybe not always, but most of the time when people say opinion, they're using it in a way to like illustrate that they're equal in some way. Like it's like, for example, I use this a lot. It's entirely subjective and opinionated what your favorite color is. Most things, especially when it comes to politics and anything that is at all related to objective reality, you have absolutely the right to your opinion, but it does not make them equal. And it's very important to understand this distinction. My claiming that there's a magical teapot that we can't observe that's on the other side of the sun that is like sending like signals to our brains and controlling certain people and making them think things that aren't true. That view, that opinion is not equally valid to the opinion that that is horseshit. Evidence is the bar in which we measure, we gauge how valid an opinion is. So my point here is let's just take one, your stance on immigration. It's not just completely arbitrary, independent of reality. Your opinion is formed based on truth claims, facts, or perceived facts, if you will. When there's a group of people that are like hardcore about immigration because of information that's coming at them that can be verified as factually incorrect, it makes the opinion that it's based on invalid. Do you understand where I'm trying to go with this? I hope so, because this can be, it can be difficult to reach people with this. Like this should be very clear to me. Like it shouldn't need that much, but I guess it's not people's fault. But like Because of what I just said, there is no like everyone is entitled to their opinion. Yes, they are. But again, they're not equal. Just because like you call it an opinion does not make it magically like immune to scrutiny. We do not want to live in that world, I promise you. When facts mean nothing, everything goes to shit. And importantly, when facts mean nothing, tyranny has a foothold. When truth is just like I go into this all the time, like my truth. There is no my truth. Truth is not subjective by its very definition. That like if you have a quote my truth and it's invalidated by evidence, you don't have truth. You think you have truth and you're incorrect. So, because of this and various other things, we could get into ethics, utilitarianism. These are my personal beliefs. I believe that it's extremely important that we counter bullshit with evidence. I'm not going to stop doing so. Now, evidence can be empirical in terms of like statistical data, uh, video evidence about certain claims. There's all sorts of different types of empirical evidence, but there's also logical evidence. Logic, see, a lot of people think of logic, and it can be used in this way. It's a problem with word ambiguity to some extent. They think of logic as your personal brand, and it's similar to my truth. Logic is not subjective. People can be like wrong in using logic, in which case that's not their logic. That's just it's not logic. It's incorrect, right? So I do my best to, when I make claims, separate my personal subjective perception from truth claims. Like I try to use only evidence that can be measured outside of my personal interpretation, if you will. That's what it means to be objective. It doesn't mean I'm always right, but it means that I'm more likely to be right. At least in comparison to just relying on my personal experience as like the gauge for anything that is true. That's the problem that most people make. They don't realize the extent at which the human brain is fallible. It fucks up all the time. Mine does, yours does, everyone's does, but not equally. If you realize that the human brain fucks up constantly, defense mechanisms, uh, bias, prejudice, there's all sorts of things that can influence your perception of reality based on your personal experience. And if you realize that you are fallible, you are biased, you are necessarily biased. Even if you don't want to be, you're going to be biased to a certain extent. If you at least can acknowledge that, you at least stand a fighting chance at finding objectivity. But there's too many people whose views are entirely shaped by only their personal experience. And the problem with that is you don't have, and this includes me, by the way, you don't have all of the necessary data required to make informed decisions. So at some point, it's necessary for you to step outside of your own personal perception and use something else. Now, I would wager I don't think this is a profound claim, that evidence and logic are your best bets. You can disagree with that. But at some point, it has to be obvious that that subjective shit is going to lead you astray. It happens. We can point to like innumerable examples of this happening throughout history. I'm going into sort of a tangent and slightly breaking off topic. I tend to do that. But when I explain, like, and for instance, this recent deal with Charlie Kirk, that empathy should not be just broadly brushed across everyone and everything. It's partly an opinion. I concede that. But it's an opinion, and again, I covered this before, it's an opinion that is built upon factual data. It's not just arbitrary. This is at least partly predicated on the fact that human empathy is finite. That's not my opinion. Neuroscience backs this completely. And a lot of people don't like that. And I get it. It's unfair, it's fucked up, whatever. It don't change reality. Empathy is finite. As a result, you should be very selective in where you decide to send it, if you will. I'm not going to apologize for that. I've had so many people do their best to try to this is something that I've noticed as well, and it's something that's very telling in my opinion. When people get emotional about something, and it's fine that you're emotional, it's understandable, it's a very heavy situation. There's a tendency for them to, I don't know if it's on purpose or not, but they will straw man your position in order to make it easier to defeat. They will brand you like let's take the claim that I actually made, for example. The world is a better place without Charlie Kirk in it. So people get automatically emotional about that statement, and they make the claim that I said that it's okay to murder Charlie Kirk in broad daylight. Do you understand why that's irrational? You're taking my position and changing it because of your emotions. You're absolutely entitled to your emotions, but you're not a good person if you need to change my view to make me seem like a bad person when I'm not, in order to have I guess I would call it a quote social win. You want to frame my position as if it's absolutely abhorrent, and it's not. It's just really, it's just it's common sense. And by the way, on some level, almost all of society agrees with this. Not the specific claim that I made about Charlie Kirk, but that a life is not a life. We like to tell ourselves this, and it's very irrational. It's something we should try to introspect about. We do this thing where we believe that it is good to love all life and cherish it equally, but we don't believe that in principle, not when it comes to our actions. You can oftentimes tell what a person really believes when their words conflict with their actions. So when someone makes the claim that all life is precious, they're implicitly stating that it's equal in some way. That it's like it doesn't matter what a person has done, what a person thinks, whatever. Their life is exactly the same amount as valid as everyone else. Yet we live in a world where a vast majority of people believe, just for one example, that it's okay to kill pedophiles, that it's okay to murder someone in self defense, that it's okay to put someone on death row if they've committed a sufficiently heinous crime. Now, this is important because, again, people keep getting emotional and hijacking what I'm claiming to turn it into something else. I'm not directly comparing a pedophile to like Charlie Kirk. That's not what I'm doing. I'm using an analogy that is admittedly a little bit extreme, but it's necessary because usually when I use analogies that are like very tame, you won't get what I'm trying to claim. That's why I do it. So, when a person purposefully lies repeatedly, it tells you something about their character. And a whether or not something is like true or false, like most of the things that I go to, they're not like a personal like I believe this like color type arbitrary shit, as I've already covered. The things that I have a problem with involving Charlie Kirk that were repeatedly claimed, he was corrected on them. He was factually proven wrong. And he continued. At that point, there's no excuse. There's no defense for that. If you have to lie in order to further your cause is invalid. You're manipulating people. If you have to manipulate people, you don't have a valid point. So, I have had numerous, some were a little more obvious than others, but numerous death threats in my direction. This does not sway me in any way, shape, or form. Common saying, can't remember exactly who said it. Doesn't matter if I happen to agree with everything they said. I happen to agree with this specific quote. All it takes for evil to prosper is for good men to do nothing. I will not stop speaking the truth. I'm not using that in the my truth version. It's not subjective. The factual truth. I'm not going to stop speaking it because people are offended. I will not be bullied. That shit does not work on me. I have already dealt with anytime I believe there's even a possibility of something, I usually come up with contingency plans for them. And I've done so for this situation. Now, I'm not like being all like hardcore paranoid. Oh my God. Like it's like 100% like, or like 90% whatever, highly likely that this is going to happen. Probably not. But it's at least it's not out of the realm of possibility to the point where me, like the possibility of me being assassinated for my views is like like way out in fucking outer space. It's within the realm of possibility. I acknowledge that. I acknowledged that before I made the claims that I did. Very important that that point be understood. Some things are more important than us individually. Some, like necessarily, there has to be things that are more important than just you. Life means almost nothing if everything is just filtered through like a how this personally benefits me lens. People need something bigger than themselves. And I personally believe there's many things, there are too many to list. But one thing is when like there are various attempts to take away speech for specific people just because of like someone doesn't like your view, not because no, this is important, not because what you said was like is in some way factually invalidated. No, because actually the evidence is on your side factually. But because someone doesn't like it and that person wants to be essentially a dictator. When freedom of the press is constantly attacked, not because the press was spinning misinformation, but because you didn't personally like it. That is wrong. That goes against everything that the United States of America is about. And I have a fucking major problem with that. And regardless of how many people fucking like chime in, even if they're veiled threats, I will not back down. This isn't to make me seem like I'm fucking like a hero. I'm just some random dude. But what I see around me in general, society in general, not you specifically, so don't take it personally, but society in general, I see like a collective chilling effect to where everyone's afraid. Now, what happens? Your silence is there's pros and cons. So, what is the cost of your silence? 5 years go down the road, uh, people's ability to combat tyranny is further eroded. There's no longer even the possibility, potentially, to even speak out. Good people can no longer use their voice to fight. That's a very real possibility right now. That's not some fringe conspiracy shit. It's already begun. It would be a conspiracy if I was just taking it, pulling it out of nowhere because I personally disliked someone. That's not what's happening. So, yes, I have contingencies for several scenarios. I'm, if anything, a planner. I like to be proactive rather than reactive. But the important thing is, regardless, doing the right thing should be more important than just personal, like selfish shit. Let's, for the sake of argument, again, I'm not claiming that this is highly likely or anything. For the sake of argument, let's say you found out that I was murdered tomorrow. Now you realize how it came about. People had different views, and it was seen as like I was flaming tension. That's not my goal. That's not my intent. But yes, it's reality that that happens. The important thing is that you don't get locked up and decide to make your personal like value of your individual life more significant than the bigger picture and what it can mean to millions of people. At some point, you have to fight for things that are important. At least, well, this is more subjective, but like the simple ability to say, I disagree with that, especially if you can back it with evidence. That is something that too many people take for granted. So, regardless of what happens, I hope people don't fucking get, like, uh, blinded by fear and just fucking cow back because then they've won. At some point, maybe I'm to you, I've, uh I've gone too far. The point in which I jump in is, like, going or beyond the point where you would do so. Fine. Now, personally, I think I waited too long. I think too many freedoms have already been stripped away, and yeah, I'm not gonna go into all that. But the point is, at some point, everyone, the 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 fucking, like, whether or not minorities are considered animals or treated like shit just because they're minorities for no valid reason. Like, at some point, you have to say enough's enough and fucking fight back using any means you could possibly that you have. I think that's mainly what I wanted to go over. There's probably some things that where I wanted to cover, but I went off into a tangent and didn't. But yeah, um, say whatever you want and feel free to attack my views all you want. But one, actually attack my views. Don't try to fucking manipulate my views and change them in order to make them easier to defeat. That just means that you personally know that you can't win logically, which means you're kind of on the wrong side of history. That's another important thing. I have a certain modicum of confidence, maybe it's misplaced, that history will vindicate me. Evidence will come out to completely vindicate my version, and that'll be that. At the very least, I wasn't like the people in fucking Nazi Germany that knew exactly what Hitler was trying to accomplish, and they just stood by because they were afraid for themselves, or they thought that there was nothing they can do, whatever. If history has shown anything, it's that when enough people get fed up about something, they can do almost anything. Almost anything. The French Revolution is an excellent example of that. Thank you for your time.